don't need a storm of capital to bring our message to the people. We're here in love, protecting the water. We want to say that it's been too long years, but we're so grateful for so many that have stepped up to run for office, like Peter Soto, Lucy Molina, Renee Marge Cohn, Steve Douglas, and people like Elizabeth Epps, who you're going to hear from today. We want to celebrate victories like Alicia Johnson in Evans, in Weld County, believe it or not, the first Latina. Sofia Maya Guerrero in Lake Pueblo and Aurora. Now, 2 years ago was when we passed our first air toxics bill. Just a few years ago, it was the people who stood up with 112. Get loud if you worked on 112. Prop 112 was the fire that lit us all. It's brought us together for so much great policy, for great bills that have been passed. And I need to say thank you to leaders like Serena Gonzalez Gutierrez and Dominic Jackson, Adrian Benavides and Alex Valdez, Faith Winter and Julie Gonzalez, Dominic Moreno. These leaders are inside that hall. They're with us working to pass the policies we want this year and the next. I call on all of you to keep working hard, to fight in every way we can, like bringing our own ballot measures, like we've seen here in Denver with Waste No More. With rulemakings, for the first time, we're driving the agenda at the Water Quality Control Commission to protect the South Platte River. We need to win our wins and celebrate our community and unity. It's challenging in these times to come together like this safely. I want you to know you can get tested there in the back. It's a very important thing that we work to protect ourselves from COVID. I want to close by saying, you'll see a billboard coming around, and you have signs that say no more backroom deals. Green Latinos, I'm the Colorado State Director for, and we've been working on a lot of rulemakings. What we hear time and time again is that our leaders will sell us out in backroom deals. We say no more backroom deals that suffocate our communities. No more. There's still time now for you to engage in national methane rulemakings, clean trucks to end diesel death zones in our communities. I invite you all to celebrate today. I invite you all to march with us today and let them hear us loud, because we are brave, we are courageous, and we walk with the others on this planet. We're standing up. In closing, I just want you to take 1 second and close your eyes. And I want you to think of your first memory of water. It is water that carries us. It is water that makes us the headwater state. It is water that feeds us. It's water that puts out our fires. If we don't get our act together, we won't have the water to feed this planet, to feed our communities. And so I ask you all to be water protectors. Water protectors like my friend Lucy Molina and Shayna Oliver, community leader and indigenous rights activist. These women are powerful women. This movement is full of powerful women. And I want you to remember, when you think it's impossible, they told us that statue would never come down.
Buenos días a todos. ¿Cómo está mi raza bonita el día de hoy? It's a hot summer day, is it? Or no? No? It's supposed to be like winter, isn't it? So I'm Lucy Molina. Today, my friend and I, Shayna Oliver, will be emceeing today and introducing a wonderful list of speakers today. Muchas gracias a todos por estar aquí esta mañana. Esta mañana vamos a tener mucha gente que va a venir a hablar, a compartir su historia. So I'm doing a little bit of Spanglish here, okay? We have our girl Sandra up there that we have translating here later. But if anybody needs any questions, just, let me know afterwards, okay? Si hay gente, alguien que necesita traducción, nos avisen. Aquí tenemos a mi amiga Sandra, si necesitan, ocupan traducción. De nuevo, yo soy Lucy Molina. Gracias. I do want to thank Ian Tafoya, man. Wasn't that great? Yeah, let's give it up for my boy, Ian. Really, it is hot. I was really wondering, like, man, what should I wear today? You know, like, usually I do layers, right? Depending. Colorado, we do kind of layers. Like, at the end, I have, like, the shorts underneath, right? Because I don't know what I'm going to end up with, like. But, you know, really, just this weather alone, guys. It is wonderful that it's a nice weather for us to be out here sharing the love today, okay? Because what we're going to be sharing is love, okay? We do want to come from a space of peace and love, even though people don't respond the same way to us, but we will, right? Peace and love, amor y paz, okay? So, yo, Lucy Molina de Commerce City, I'm gonna give the microphone here to my girl, Shayna Oliver, also, so she could introduce herself. I just wanted to remind safety. Brent shared some of safety rules and stuff that were going on. Ian told us about, you know, you could get checked over here or get tested. You know, let's respect each other. Definitely, besides the physical, social distancing and all this stuff, let's respect one another, okay? Let's show who we are, you know, because we are trying to save the planet, right? We're trying to save the planet, and we gotta start here in our own home, here in Colorado. So, gracias. Okay, with that, aquí les presento a mi amiga Shayna Oliver, so she can talk a little bit, and then we're gonna jump right into our program. Like I said, we have wonderful speakers lined up for y'all, and man, we have like heroes. They're not just speakers, they're heroes, because just standing up here, it's pretty scary, you know, it's pretty nerve-wracking sometimes, you know. Thanks to you guys and the mission that is so impossible, that has been impossible for me as a mom, has allowed me to be here, you know, because of you guys supporting us and allowing us to make our voices heard. Because a few years back, man, we didn't even know what door to knock, okay? Muchas gracias, y aquí les paso a Shayna Oliver.
Hello, good morning, or good afternoon, I mean. Yeah, it's been an amazing journey, and meeting everyone and being, creating this relationship that me and Lucy have as friends, sisters, moms, and creating new relationships with all of you. Renee, Ian, Micah, you've been there for a while. All of you, like, it's been great. It's been a journey. 5 years ago, I would not imagine doing this. And I would not imagine being here still, because a lot of the gentrification has pushed a lot of our Native families back to the reservations and back to rural areas of Colorado. A lot of our families that came to Denver to make a better life for themselves end up not finding that because of gentrification and industrialism, business model that Polis displays. As we thank Polis for repealing the Kill the Indian law in the state of Colorado, and we're thankful for that, but we need more leadership for our indigenous youth as well as our youth period around the world. And I'm so proud of this picture for some reason. I have this picture that we created last night, and it's based on Lucy's mom's vision. And it's also ties to indigenous roots, because a lot of indigenous communities believe this is Turtle Island that we call the United States. And if you look at this picture, this is Turtle Island and has been known as Turtle Island prior to my existence, and will continue to be Turtle Island after our existence. So we need to step up our game and remember our roots, acknowledge indigenous people's rights. I am originally from the Navajo reservation. I am a tribal member. My parents did live in Colorado. My grandparents were a part of the Relocation Act program, and they were forced to leave Denver just to keep their ancestral lands. As I stated to a reporter, privileged, rich white people don't have to worry about that. They can have property here and go back to their home in Europe or wherever. They can go back and forth. Native Americans didn't have that right. And we are still in existence. And as a Navajo, being Diné, because Diné is what we originally were. Navajo is a derogatory for our people. And as a Diné, we have 2 sacred mountains in the southern Colorado. And it really, I feel ashamed not knowing my own language and not being able to recite things in Navajo. But I really worked hard in trying to relate, and what relates to me is being Diné. And I haven't shared my clanship like I should. And we have to, because as Diné people, we know our clans. For my mom, her bloodline is Twitagonsha, which is bitter water. On my father's side, on his mother's side, is Ashi, which is saltwater clan. And on my grandfather's side, of his mother's side, is Akashi, which is left red hand clan, which is misinterpreted today, and it's considered to be, some of those clans are considered to be extinct. And it's considered that way because your bloodline is carried through the mother. We are the children of Mother Earth. Our Father Sky watches over us. Without Father Sky, our Mother Earth would not be here. And in creation, it started with female mist and male mist that creation started. And it's in those components that life continues to live. Even plants have that element. And I want to introduce Renee Miller-Jacone, who has been a wonderful sister to the community, and who's going to do the land acknowledgement. But I just want everybody to understand that Indigenous people's rights need to be acknowledged. We need to support traditional ecological knowledge behind Indigenous people, and not just here, but around the world.
Thank you. Gracias. Shayna, wow, that was powerful.
Claso kamati ometo, claso kamati atatonatiu, claso kamati tonantiklali, claso kamati abuelitos y abuelitas, and all the ones that came before, and all the little ones to come. You live on the land of the Ute, the Cheyenne, the Arapaho, the Lakota, the Kiowa, the Comanche, the Navajo, the Apache, and Chicano, and 48 tribes that still live and travel through one of the oldest intersections of our continent down to Pueblo, including the Ute Trail. Please respect that, because now acknowledgement means you know. You live on stolen land. That means to make room now for our communities to have restorative justice, because those that have survived with resiliency of genocides. For us to be able to now tell you, what is a disproportionately impacted community? What do we look like when we no longer want to be your martyrs? And when we're tired of forms of terrorism, no matter what it looks like, and that you can be complicit in it. So change, be transformative. Not because I'm telling you what to do, but because I'm a mom too. Today my sons and my husbands were supposed to be here and they're sick. They've been homeschooled and they're still sick. We're tired. The last 2 weeks I've been in prayer circles and funerals and heard about wildfires affecting my families. We had a terrorist walk into one of our hermanas' own places of business and blow her away. I need you to understand that terrorism to our communities is very much alive. Genocide to our water is very much alive to us, because those things are living. And to me, I'm nothing without my community. I grew up in my community and my community has raised me. I know we don't always get along, but we do love each other. We do respect each other. We have been fragmented and rolled over so many times that my elders are tired of saying the same things you hear me saying now. This isn't a new fight. And we're here to tell you we're tired martyrs sitting on those councils, sitting on those spaces, and no one makes room for us until community outreach, until a checkbox has to be marked to say you worked with our communities a little bit, maybe a rep. But you've never changed the transformative education you need to hold as accountability. Do you know about 48 cultures? Not 48 tribes, 48 distinct different cultures that live in this space. All of us deserve to be respected, and guess how many churches are in this space? You know how hard it is just for me to pray and hold these circles even through this grief? If it wasn't for Harmony, I don't even know how we were able to hold one of our seriously serious ceremonies for her. Because we have no safe space to pray, much less a brave space to tell you what you're doing wrong. If you truly love the biosphere, the community, the spaces you're reaching to, yeah, look up. Look up to what you've never been educated on. Look up to what you've never been able to be embraced about in yourselves and have it reflected in your space. And if your leaders do not hold that space for you, they should not be your leaders. Where I come from, to be called a community leader, you don't state it. Your community does. Your community said, that person helped me. Whether it was showing up for food shares or being there for ceremonies, that person helped me when I lost my family or when I lost my loved one. That person helped me when I just needed to move again and again and again and again in the space we call Denver. That person helped me when I was houseless. Remember, we're all but a fragment away from our lives being changed. That means you're all but a fragment away of transforming it too. I'm the executive director of Women from the Mountain with my co-founder, Micaela Ironshell Dominguez, and Ometel to new life. She just had a baby about this week, a little girl. As in, she was already holding her granddaughter in her tummy while she was with her own baby. Think about that. When my sister goes to fight, she's fighting for her grandbaby. When I fight for my sons, I'm fighting for my great-grandbabies. We're not fighting for ourselves. We don't even get paid to do this. We're here because we care. We're here because we see where there is harm, and we're tired of being harmed. We're tired of not even being able to do anything about it within a timeline that can do anything. Yeah, 1266 and SB 200 was moved 2 years ago. You should be ashamed, government leaders. 2 years ago, you haven't even had a timeline implementation to do anything. And we're still telling you, Suncor, sundown. Suncor is line 1. We live on the front lines, all of us now. You were just awakened when it was Standing Rock. But in all honesty, yeah, South Platte has 35 particulate pollutants. Benzene, hydrogen cyanide, hydrogen sulfide. These were used in gas chambers. Imagine what it's doing to our little gente and the soil. So when I say restorative justice, it doesn't mean just working with me. Listening to me. It means listening to Lucy. It means listening to Shayna. It means listening to Ian. I work with these people. It means listening to Mika. I work with these people because they listen. They know how to work together in compromise, in community, in understanding what nonviolence direct action really is, because it's life-giving, not against your civil injustice or not being able to hold, or we're just enviros. I'm tired of that. I've been in this already all my life, been protesting since the age of 3. The age of 3, I've been holding banners. I've been telling communities where we've been harmed, we've defined disproportionately impacted communities. I'm no longer here to define or be on councils. I'm here to finally bring change. I'm here to finally see that all of us have those diverse narratives that have always deserved to be represented. So move with context from here on out. What does it mean to move with cultural context? If you can identify yourself as at least one other culture than white, you will finally see my culture, because it hides my humanity. Our oral traditions, our very relation to the earth is our humanity. So I ask that you respect that for our future generations and yours. It is honestly time to not just do something and look up, but to do it with integrity. The last words that I remember in the video of my hermana was she said, yeah, when you have privilege, first one is to help other people. Of course. The first one is to help other people. The second one is, if you have that privilege, is move with integrity in every single thing that you do. So that you can actually make things happen and do it with honor of who you are. Thank you. I'm at the whole.
Wow. Renee, Larchicol, the Commerce City. I'm proud to say that she's my neighbor. I see it here. Commerce City, gente over here. That's our little rancho over there. Renee, she also ran a good campaign this summer, and I'm really proud to stand along with her this fight. Muchas gracias. So with that, I want to introduce the next. I mean, this is a powerhouse, I'll tell you right here alone. These two girls, I mean, Renee just like, whoo, but also we got it like right here. Oh, no. I got chills just looking at her right now. So I have the honor really to introduce my girl here. She's from she's a transportation advocate and RTD director for Aurora, Denver, and Adams County. She's speaking on transportation, and not leaving our world to implode in the hands of capitalists. Let's give it up for my girl, Chantal Lewis! Eso!
You are power. I just have to take a moment to acknowledge you because I felt that. Like, I felt that in my spirit. I felt that in my soul, and I have a message. I have a message here, but I have a message for Black and brown and indigenous women. Y'all need to rest. Y'all are tired, and you cannot carry this shit anymore. You are tired. Let someone else step in. Take a break. Take a nap. Rest. Rest. You. Yeah, for real. All right, let's get into this, because y'all know they be pissing me off at RTD. So my name is Chantal Lewis. I serve on the Regional Transportation Board, RTD, buses and trains. I grew up on public transit. I love public transit, and I was wild enough to run for the board because I was wild enough to think that I could make a change. So, thank you. We can't let capitalism lead our country into destruction. Our pleas, our cries, and our innovations of operationalizing justice and fairness in our governments have gone unanswered. Instead, the response has been very clear that our collective desire to have clean air, affordable housing, and access to public transit has been conceded to the power and interests of those that do not value our people and that value their profits. And let's be very clear about that. Our future has been ransomed by those that tend to only personally gain while offering moments to us, all of us, of hope for our silence. And many of us have obliged. Our future has been mortgaged in exchange for bonds that will never provide us with the cities, the states, and the communities that we all desire. Did you know that 45% of the population do not have access to transit? 45%. RTD, like most countries, have infrastructure that is literally crumbling before our eyes. Quite literally crumbling before our eyes. We have millions of dollars in deferred projects that need to be maintained at RTD that we don't. I'm not talking about just buses, I'm talking about garages with holes in them, roofs that need to be replaced. We have equipment that our mechanics use that need to be replaced. And you know why that's not being replaced? Because our governor It's focused on building a train in which no one is going to be riding, on the backs of those who actually use public transportation and don't just use it, they depend on it. And y'all know, I love me a good train, so this ain't about the train. But I absolutely refuse to give away the mode for which these folks who depend on public transportation as the only means of getting to work, to healthcare appointments, to their children's schools, to be gambled away over what? Petty politics. And that's what it is. This governing body in this building last year put forward a 10-year transportation bill for millions, 10 years, our future, millions. And you know what was absent in that bill? An allocation of dollars to our largest transportation agency in the state of Colorado that carries the most people. Make that make sense. It don't make sense. You know where the money was invested into expanding highways, because we need more highways. Exactly. Highways to further marginalize, disenfranchise, and poison our siblings. So I got a few asks of you, because I always ask y'all to do stuff. I ask that you commit with me to a car light lifestyle. Now, I'm not asking y'all to get rid of your cars, although you should. What I am asking you is that you just take a moment, 2 trips out of your month, out of your week, and get on public transportation for our environment, for our future, for our lives. Car light. You don't have to go without a car. Just lighten up the load a little bit, you know? I ask that you commit to driving less. I ask that you show up to our RTD board meetings, because I always ask y'all to show up to RTD board meetings. They happen on Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 5:30 online, so they're pretty accessible if you have internet and a computer in time, and not multiple drops. RTD-Denver.com, and scroll down to the board, and you can click on it, and it'll say 2-week calendar, and you can log in. But I don't want you just to log in and I want you to participate. I want you to hold our board accountable to their decisions, and you ensure that they prioritize our most vulnerable and marginalized citizens in action, not in words. That's us, because they are not doing that. Someone talked about the rooms in the backroom deals. I can assure you that's happening. I can assure you that's happening. Finally, I ask that you hold our governor and our legislative body accountable to make policies that help our communities and do not do harm. Everyone in this building. It is beyond time that we stop prioritizing the lining of rich people's pockets and prioritize our people. It is beyond time. That's right. Our time has been up. Because I can assure you, your futures are definitely being mortgaged away in back rooms. I can assure you of that. Don't let it happen. Fight the power, y'all.
Chantal Lewis!
All right, that was amazing speakers. Up next we have Beth Winsky will be our next speaker, a former petroleum geologist and current science and social studies teacher, and she's gonna share her experience of her sister's losing her home in the fire. And when we speak about these fires, I get emotional when I think back to Wyatt Tuff, the 13-year-old boy that died with his dog trying to go back for his grandmother in the Oregon fire. A couple summers ago. And I think that doesn't get talked a lot about, is that the impacts of our community members in wildfires, and especially children. So thank you, Beth Winsky, for sharing your story.
Hello everyone, thank you for being here. See, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do it. started out as a text to my family to let them know what had happened to my brother-in-law. Okay. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. So this was a text that I wrote on Saturday morning after I went up in my Forester during that snowstorm on New Year's Eve to go see what happened to my sisters and brother-in-law's home. My sisters passed away already, not from this fire, but my brother-in-law still lived there, and he sent me a picture. I wish I had a way to project that, but if this goes, live on a live stream or something, I'll get that picture out. All that remains of their home is a couple arches. So this is my visit to my sisters and brother-in-law's home after the Colorado fire on 12/30/21. I went to see Reed and Linda's home last night as it was snowing. The area was blocked from the south, but I got in from the north entrance. In the whole enclave, there were only 3 homes still standing. They were in the middle of the enclave. It was pretty surreal. There were 2 fire trucks watching over the whole place, as were pockets of little flames at most of the homes, still looking at most homes that looked like candles burning. It looked as if the place had been bombed. Then I got out of my car. I smelled the smoke. It smelled like incense. I felt like I was in a quiet, dark church without walls. The whole scene became so sacred. I looked around and tried to remember what had been there, reconstructing it all in my mind in order to say goodbye. I said goodbye to the trees, to the homes, to the personal memories, to the personal belongings, to the treasures, to the good times, to the challenging times, and to the fences with Christmas lights. All now in smoke, on its way to heaven. I felt like I was holding a Warrior II pose, a sacred moment in one hand and a call to action in the other. Those 80 to 115-mile-per-hour winds that swept through this area during the winter in a drought were most likely the result of climate change. Right then and there, I made a commitment to myself to get an EV, an electric vehicle, to compost, to recycle, to eat more plant-based, to seal up my home, to look into geothermal for the heating of my home, to clean my solar panels, to offset my emissions when I burn gas or travel, and to apply for the sustainability position in my own town, Arvada. Fire is destructive, purging, and sometimes necessary for new beginnings to spring forward. Into these dying embers, I planted seeds for my commitment to my planet and to everyone and to everything she supports. That lightly falling, pure white snow watered these seeds of intention. I pray and trust that others like you will follow in my humble footsteps. There's always a gift. Perhaps this will be a disaster that finally gets our attention. To dream big and to make any dreams for a healthy planet happen this year. Peace and blessings. And
Okay, wow, this is scary, about these fires. I'm really sorry for your family, Miss Beth, and all the speakers. I'm like, wow, even, I really love her compromise about su compromiso, about sustainability and making changes, getting electric vehicle, electrification, all those, cool things. I am from a, frontline community, Commerce City, low-income community, single mother. Those things seem so cool, but for me, someone like me, it sounds so surreal. Wow, I could never afford to save the planet. Frontline communities like ours, facing the environmental injustice and environmental racism. And I do want to take this time to thank 350 Colorado also that I'm helping organize with the pipeline also, and Suncor that the last, gosh, almost 5 years. They've been sticking with me with the Suncor permitting. You know, they've been, and here just throwing facts of the things that they've been, gosh, it's like I get pissed every time I have to say this, but you know, they've been working with expired permits for 11 years. I mean, come on. Come on, guys, come on. ¿Qué onda? ¿Qué rollo? ¿Qué les pasa? You know, I mean, I don't know if you guys, I mean, even in our car, we can't, you know, have an expired permit in our car. It's like, you know, they gave us a break during the pandemic, but come on. So I do ask people to check us out also, our movement with Suncor. You know, there's a Suncor to Sundown with Women of the Mountain, Cultivando, doing the aire, the air monitoring. A lot of cool, awesome things that a lot of these coalitions did the last couple of years. Okay, so, but it's a start. It's just a start. Okay, this is just a beginning point. So we have a lot of work. So with this, you know, all the speakers, Renee was mentioning also about, you know, she's protecting her chiquitos. We're moms protecting our kids. Right now, I have the honor to introduce one of our youth speakers. You know, one of the people that we're fighting for, the ones that you guys are going to take the mic. Okay, and tell your friends to start showing up also. You know, you guys should be angry. You should be making a big deal about it, okay? Because it's your future, all right? So when they say don't look up, guess what? We gotta look up a lot, okay? Look it up, like she said. So aquí tenemos our next speaker. Oh, sorry. Okay, so then we're gonna skip our youth speaker for now, and we're gonna go with Andre Hausny, and Jacob Springs farmer and Lebanese immigrant. Wow, yeah. Hey, that's why I got my butterfly wings, and they're on fire today, though. You know, they're on fire today because we're on fire. And he's gonna be speaking about regenerative farming practices and the impacts of climate crisis. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. I'm glad to be here. Just to introduce myself, my name is Andre Husny. My farm is Jacob Springs Farm. We farm 450 acres here on the Front Range, regeneratively, which means we raise cattle and livestock and wheat and corn and other crops in a way that restores our soils, fosters our delicate ecosystems, like our wetlands, our riparian areas, and our grasslands, and produces nourishing food for our community. And this has been my passion since my family had the opportunity to immigrate here. I was born in a war-torn country, a country that full of war and conflict, in a region that's still full of war and conflict. And don't let anyone convince you that the problem is terrorism. The problem is that our climate is failing our people, and drought is causing despair, hopelessness, poverty, and conflict. And so that conflict over there, my family was among the lucky ones that got to come here. The great privilege to get to move to Colorado, and my heart and my healing was in nature, was in learning to farm and learning to produce nourishing food for my family and for my community. And that's my passion, that's what I do every day. And I'm also the first minority or brown farmer to ever win a lease to farm public land of the OSMP. 70% of our agricultural farm workers in this state are members of minorities. 2% of farms and 0.5% of acreage is in the hands of those minority farmers. There's a big land injustice. And that's important to me, and I can't help but think that if more of our indigenous people and minority people who are frontline communities are more connected to the impacts of climate change, if they were actually put in the driver's seat of the farmland, maybe we would have a farming and an agricultural system that's more sensitive to the planet. So I got this privilege, this ability to work outside every day and to grow food for my community and to raise and interact with animals and to regenerate the soil and to sequester atmospheric carbon, and it's joyful and it's wonderful, and I get to be in the weather every day. And I've been noticing since I was 9 years old and I came here and I started working on farms that winters aren't what they used to be. Things are changing. And all the old farmers, all the old white farmers that I worked for, they used to deny climate change. They're not talking about that anymore. They all know it's real. We all see it on this warm winter day. There was a week before the fires when every morning I would wake up and it was in the 50s at dawn. And I'd walk outside and I told my farm team, this isn't normal. Our winters have been starting later. They've been shorter. They've been more intense. They've been more volatile. We don't know what's coming. It's hard to plant. This year on September 15th, I had to make a decision whether or not to plant wheat. We hadn't had real rain since June. I decided not to plant anything. And I was right. We would have lost the crop. Because the month of June was very wet. We had 7 inches of rain where we normally would have 1.5. Let me talk about the weather a little bit. The weather used to be boring to talk about, but now it's what's on our mind. We had 7 inches of rain in June. Woohoo! Great, right? We got a lot of rain. We got a lot of things growing. Once we cut that hay, the rain stopped. And we got pretty much no precipitation from then until the fires. And that's not a coincidence. Because for things to burn, you have to have, vegetation to burn, fire, and then it has to be dry. And it was really dry. I had never seen it that dry. Now, I've only been outside working on farms for 35 years, but we can look back as long as people have been kind of writing it down. And this is the worst. We never had a first snow later than this year. This year's the driest. It's never been this hot in December, January. And so, big surprise, a little spark turns that into a tinderbox. And I was out there. When I saw the smoke, I thought my hay was on fire. I went out there with my truck, and I noticed that, no, it's a neighborhood. And there's horses in there and goats, so we started pulling them out. I kept going back in and back out, and every time I'd go in, I was just overwhelmed with the sight of homes all around me on fire. This is what climate is like, people. And it's not just here. We had the longest tornado in the history of the world in Kentucky this year. It ripped the roof off of a warehouse where a bunch of people were just trying to work and feed their families. The Middle East. I work with farmers in Africa. When a mother is crying because her child is hungry, because the rains didn't come, that's connected. We're on one planet. This is the deal. And we need to make a change. It's time. We can point the finger. If Polis won't do it, who's going to do it? If Polis can't do it, how can it be done? We got to have it done. Let's get it going. Our world is at stake. Thank you.
Thank you, Andre. That was so powerful and getting that perspective. And our next speaker, we give it up for Maya, our youth, who's going to speak about the climate crisis from a youth perspective.
Hi. I just wanted to say before I start that thank you everybody who's spoken before me for really giving us space to mourn. I think that that's something that I've really been needing recently. So I just wanted to give everyone some space to mourn because I think that it is so important to connect to our humanity because at the base, that is what will permit us to combat this climate crisis. Okay, so I'd like to start my little speech spiel with a call and response. I kind of think that connecting through our voices and through our bodies is really powerful. So if you could just repeat after me, that would be amazing. And also, if you feel like you should close your eyes, then go ahead. That helps me sometimes. So here it goes. I live to dig. In the dirt. I live to frolic. In the forests. I live to spin. In the snow. We stand for the dirt. We stand for the forests. We stand for the snow. I want, more than anything, to look to the future and see a world that I am proud to leave behind. A world in which there are snowy days that make children and adults pause and play all day. A world in which there are dark nights filled with starry skies and sweet rain and clean air. So when you climb to the top of a peak, you can see mountains and lakes, forests and plains for as far as the eye can reach. I have known the paradise I paint, but today I feel it slip away. 2 weeks ago today, I was in a winter wonderland on a hut trip with my family and friends near Oubre. After a winter void of snow, I felt so lucky to suddenly find myself in what felt like a snow globe. We had no signal, so our only news source was the occasional person we would cross along on the trail. This is how I heard about the Marshall Fires. Echoes of words flashed pictures through my head. 600 homes destroyed, and suddenly I felt trapped, as though I really were in a snow globe, sitting on a desk on fire, in a house on fire, in a world on fire. When I look to the people in office, I yearn to see humanity. Nothing more, nothing less. Humans are far from perfect. We make mistakes, yes, but we're also capable of magic. Climate inaction is not a mistake. Climate inaction is a crime. What is a leader for if not to bring about a better world? What is a leader for if not to protect our visions for Earth, our visions for the future generations, or in this case, for us, the present generations? Jared Polis, we demand you to open your heart and act. Yes, it starts with a climate declaration of a climate emergency, but what goes behind that is so much more important. And I truly believe that it is just connecting to our humanity. So, in the words of Liz Wathuti, a very inspirational climate activist from Kenya, please open your heart and act. Thank you.
All right. Wow, yeah, the youth. Right on. Give it up for Maya. Gracias, mi Maya. Hermosa. Now I have the honor, as a Commerce City resident as well, here to introduce an essential worker, a former Commerce City Council member, and climate activist. He's going to be speaking about the intersection of labor, essential workers, and climate and food. Give it up for my hermano, Steve Douglas, Commerce City. Yeah!
Thank you all. Appreciate that. Thank you for being here. Again, my name is Steve Douglas. I'm a 44-year essential worker, UFCW, a union member, and a former city council of Kansas City. First, I'd like to say thank you to all the UFCW local frontline central grocery workers. And to our president, Kim Cordova, who says it best, we were essential workers before it was a thing. When the weather turns bad or there's a pandemic, where's the first place people go to get their food supplies? The local grocery store. So I say, please stand with UFCW, grocery workers in solidarity. Don't cross the picket line. There's plenty of other places where you can shop. There's a lot of things employees are asking. I'll just say a few things here. Employees are asking for physically and mentally safe working environment, proper sanitation, equipment, and PPE, equitable health care, full-time hours and overtime pay, and livable wages. I've been at this job 44 years because it's sustainable. It came as a package, and now they want to take that away. So thank you. I'm here to say also, the system isn't broken. It's working by design, and that's what they want you to buy into. So I say, do not buy into the system. The state of Colorado and the climate crisis is the worst drought since the Dust Bowl. And we're talking 20 years ago, they had plans to offset our future climate crisis. But when we get a huge percentage of precipitation, back in the 80s, they changed their minds. So they scaled those things back. Sorry about that. Your hands don't work. I was actually on the front line last night, striking for the last so many years, so many hours. Doubling up my socks were doubled up, and now I can take this jacket off and have a t-shirt. It's crazy. I mean, this is January. Human-caused increases in drought risk will continue to impose enormous costs upon producing enough summer food yields for our grocery stores throughout Colorado. Each year we see smaller and smaller crops like Olayeth corn, Rocky Ford cantaloupe. My question is, why are we destroying our land, air, water to frack when our water and food supplies is in danger? I'd like to remind you, Governor Polish, you can't eat money and you can't drink oil. And we still don't have a monitoring system up at Bellaroma Academy. The report was also found in 2020 economic cost of drought and wildfires in Colorado was between $1 billion and $2 billion. That doesn't even count for 2021. That's good money literally up in smokes. Money that could be used to feed people, not destroyed because of the climate crisis. The climate crisis is also literally killing people who plant and harvest our food. You just heard earlier, how can we not realize that our disregard and disrespect for people who are suffering in hotter and dirtier air just to feed us has become a matter of life and death for them, and are most hardworking and humble. So here's the question that is food for thought in the end. Will it become a life or death matter for us? This is something that we don't need to think about, but we should say food for thought. So when this is all going on, it's not put you to know that right at the very minute the grocery workers are protesting the unjust system, while we are protesting the unjust climate crisis and pollution policies, we're also fighting monsters born out of the system that breed both greed and humanity. A system that allows private takeovers of public service, turn our basic human needs into commodities and control and guaranteed profits, guaranteed to the wealthiest corporations. So let's rise up against this greedy corporation and their political cohorts, stand together with others, and we're willing to fight for what is right, like the essential workers of UFCW and all of us here today. Let's stand together and know that Colorado People Alliance says it best. We fight, we win, don't ever stop. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Steve. Wonderful. So our next speaker, I have the honor of introducing my sister. She's the head of the Colorado Freedom Fund and a candidate for Colorado State House District. Speaking about environmental intersectionality and environmental justice. Let's give it up for my sister, la quiero un chingo, a mi amiga, mi hermana, Elizabeth.
Good afternoon. As wonderfully warm as it is, one of the downsides is I cannot see my notes. So what I'm going to get is a wonderful opportunity to see if I my heart, if that's okay with y'all, is it? Thank you. You know, white folks from the West are linear, but I'm African, and African, we were circular, we move. So, thank you. I'm Elizabeth Epps. I founded and I do direct the Colorado Freedom Fund. It's a wonderful feeling to look out and see so many people who have supported my work and supported our work to get our neighbors out of Colorado cages. I'm an abolitionist. You answered my question. I was going to ask you, are there any other abolitionists here? Good. I don't know if in 3.5 minutes I can do service to the ideas of connecting abolition to environmental justice, but damn it, I'm going to try. So abolition is about creation. When I talk about abolition and we talk about the work of abolishing the complex, abolishing policing, the active verb, the policing of our communities, that is the work of abolition, and abolition is about love. Our day started with our MCs talking to us about love. When I say abolition is about creation and we're connecting that to environmental justice, I mean it in the most literal sense, right? Because we know the world that I'm working for, the world that I've started to name names, the world that you all are working for, the one without policing, you recognize surely that many world, right? It already exists. Our most wealthy neighbors, their communities are already not beasts, right? When their children fall in some sort of substance use issue or challenges, their children get insurance-based rehab and support and reunification. Our children get jail, okay? So the world that we're asking for, it already exists in certain communities. When we talk about the connection to environmental justice, for me it boils down to one simple principle or an adage, and that is, and I think you all know this, that crisis exacerbates inequality, okay? So tragedy exacerbates and amplifies and deepens and broadens existing inequality. And that is most true when we talk about environmental justice. When we're talking about the climate crisis and justice, very often what we're talking about is the safety of the earth itself, and I love the signs. I won't say what this one said, but I love the signs. We should recognize though, y'all, and I hope this isn't too controversial, y'all, the earth is gonna make it. Do you understand that? The earth is gonna last. It's us that might not make it, okay? We might not make it. And as we're making choices, and I appreciate the speakers who've spoken to lifting up the folks who are already most harmed, whether that's over-policed or being harmed, right? Y'all know where they put their pipelines, where they build their factories. So when there's a leak or when there's a breakdown, who does it hurt, right? Whose mothers die of cancer? Who does it impact? Similarly, on a very local level, I want y'all to understand on this beautiful January day, the HVAC systems in our cages are not good. The way in which the folks inside these cages are experiencing climate change is intense and inexcusable. You have demands, we have demands of our governor, right? That we stop issuing new permits, that we acknowledge the disproportionate harm to Black and brown and indigenous communities, that we declare a climate emergency. I'm gonna use this moment of personal privilege. I forgot to ask someone to be a friend and tell me when it was 3 minutes, so I'm gonna guess it's soon. But I'm gonna take this moment to invite you to consider, right, we're on these steps at a building where so many of us have worked outside and inside. Y'all, diversity of tactics matters, right? Protest without policy is nothing, but policy gets nowhere without protest, okay? The most important work of my professional career, we only did because people were in the streets. Can we say it that way? This matters. So my invitation to you as we call upon our governor, and by the way, while we hope he gets it right, this is so much bigger than him, right? We're in this for the long haul, right? As was said, we're doing this for our babies and our grandbabies. and their children and beyond. And I mean this in a very political sense connected to this building. We have a message for our governor, but we have a message for his successor. What we're doing is showing those who want to vie for that job, and it's not me, but those who want to vie for that job, what we expect of them. There are people in this building, I wrote it well, so I'm just going to have to try to say it as delicately as I can. There are people in this building who have never stood up to power. So why are we surprised when we elect them that they don't stand up to power? The invitation in Commerce City and in House District 6 and statewide is that if you want leaders, right, who are going to take the action necessary to protect not just our planet, but the people and cultures on it, you need to elect leaders who have already been doing that work. Okay? I'm looking for Ian to give me, he's talking to someone. I was looking for you to tell me if we should close with Asada or not. Okay, so I do what he tells me. I hope that made some sense. The issues of how we're policing and harming our folks are inextricably linked to how we're being good stewards of the resources. I am someone who was not born here in Colorado, that is, but I got here just as soon as I could, right? Migration is a human right, right? And we who are here, whether it was by birth or by circumstance, as we are good stewards of this earth and our neighbors in it, I invite you to consider the of Asada Shakur. We're going to say it 3 times through. If you already know it, then be my strength and say it with me the first time. If you don't, just say it with us the other times. We're going to say it 3 times through, and how we're going to do it is the first time we're going to say it to each other who are here in this space and gathered to ask these demands of our governor and our legislators. They work, remember? The second time we say it through, we're going to say it a little louder because we're saying it for those passing by. We're saying it for those who want to be here with us in person, but because of an avoidable, exacerbated by public policy decisions pandemic that is still going on, can't be here with us right now. So we'll say it a little louder. And then the third time, the invitation is that you yell it from your soul, that you yell it so that our ancestors hear us and so that our future children hear us. And most importantly, so that our siblings in that cage can hear us. Okay? I'm going to repeat it. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other.